What is it like to have a 150 IQ? Is life easier? What are the advantages you feel you have over others? Are there any disadvantages? How can you make your life a more pleasant experience? If you enjoy this kind of videos, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Were you reading the newspaper before you entered kindergarten? You could also add, multiply and divide any numbers. Square roots. You don't even need the paper. It's to the point where it baffles you that most people actually need to write these things down. You discovered the Fibonacci sequence when you were around 7, and when you were in first grade, you tested past 8. But did school bore you? Yes, almost everything you learned yourself. You can comprehend almost any book on your first reading. Does this make some things easier? Sure. Learning most things. You hear new ideas, new technologies you've never seen before, and you are able, in a matter of hours or days of immersion, not only to understand what's going on, but to explain them to others. You think faster and formulate thoughts whole. You barely need to edit anything you write. You barely need to break a sweat, solving many difficult problems. But does this make your life easier? Not at all. In some cases, just the opposite. There are a few things that are harder and make your life worse. 1. Over-relying on brain power. You can get stuck thinking through tiny details of intellectual exercises all day and never get anything done. You can also take a hyper-rational approach, where you come up with something that makes sense to you, but is not the way that the world and other people actually work. This leaves you out of sync with the rest of the world, and it feels like everyone else is wrong. 2. Relationships with other people. First, you don't really understand them. They think differently. When you can't identify with someone, it's a lot harder to have a relationship with them. Second, even if you can identify with them, actually talking to them can be harder. They may want to talk about things that aren't interesting to you. They may not understand what you are talking about. Most people tend to avoid experiences like that. Things that come naturally to others may take a lot more effort when you are distracted by your intelligence. 3. Being lazy. You can leave things to the last minute and still get them done. This leads to feeling lazy, and often other people will think that too. This pattern tends to come from school, where everything is designed for people who find it a lot harder. By the time you've spent years in a system where you can get by with far less work than everyone around you, it becomes a deeply ingrained habit. Knowing that you don't have to make an effort kills motivation and satisfaction. 4. Problems with authorities. You have found yourself in a lot of situations when it is almost unbelievable to you how some things are even possible. You're sick of the police brutality. You cannot explain to yourself how dumb are some of the laws and regulations. You cannot accept rude bosses, stupid politicians, and mediocre minds. You don't like how the world actually looks like. You want to change something or everything, and you probably get into a lot of troubles because of that. Every person with above average IQ have to become aware with the fact that to be highly intelligent and effective in life, there are few rules you have to follow. Unfortunately, it's rare to hear about these, since they aren't applicable to most people, and people who have figured them out don't seem to talk about them a lot. Possibly because others don't react kindly. It's a bit like saying, I have so much money that I'm miserable trying to figure out what to spend it on. Rule number 1. Don't settle. Change the way you do things. If you can do something in one day, don't give yourself a whole week. Take on bigger challenges that actually push you to the limit of your abilities. You either end up getting a lot more done or living at a level that you might have thought was impossible. You also enjoy the things you are doing a lot more. Rule number 2. Study how people interact. Keep reminding yourself that the people you're talking to think differently than you, and you need to understand how they think and interact with them in a way that is comfortable to both of you. Learn how to handle it when they don't understand what you are doing and make the wrong assumption. The last and the most important rule: let yourself be different. Allow yourself different and divergent ways of thinking. On the edges, one can find one's tribe, where the weird ones are included in the larger weird. There is one Eastern philosophy term called Avadhut, which in India is the enlightened person whose ideas are greater than those accepted by the current society. So never accept the boundaries and always go beyond your limits. As there's a saying, whatever true thing you can say about someone, the opposite is also true. And now just like and subscribe, and maybe share your thoughts to get an access to all of the actual knowledge of this world.